I'll be reading from 2 Maccabees chapter 7. And it came to pass that 7 brothers also with their mother were at the king's command, taken and shamefully handed with scourges and cords, to compel them to the taste of the abominable swine's flesh. But one of them made himself a spokesman, and said, What would you ask and learn of us? For we are ready to die rather than transgress the law of our fathers. And the king fell into a rage, and commanded to heat pans and cauldrons. And when these were heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that had been their spokesman, and to scalp him, and to cut off his extremities, the rest of his brothers and his mother looking on. And when he was utterly maimed, the king commanded to bring him to fire, being yet alive, and to fry him in a pan. And as the vapor of the pan spread far, they and their mother also exhorted one another to die, nobly saying, Yah Elohim sees, and in truth is entreated for us, as Moses declared to us in his song, which witnesses against the people to their faces, saying, And he will be entreated for his servants. And when the first had died, after this manner they brought the second to the mocking. They pulled off his skin off of his head with the hair, and asked him, Will you eat before the body is punished to every limb? But he answered in the language of his fathers, and said to them, No. Therefore he also underwent the next torture in succession, as the first had done. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, You miscreant, release us out of this present life. But the King of the world will raise us up, who have died for his laws, to a continuous renewal of life. And after him the third was made a laughing stock. And when he was required, he quickly put out his tongue, and stretched out his hands courageously, and nobly said, From heaven I possess these, and for his law's sake I treat these with contempt. And from him I hope to receive these back again, insomuch as that the king himself and those who were with him were astonished at the young man's soul, for he regarded the pain as nothing. And when he too was dead, they shamefully handled and tortured the fourth in like manner. And having come near to death, he said, It is good to die at the hands of men, to look for the hopes which are given by Elohim, and we will be raised up again by him. For as for you, you have no resurrection to life. And the next after him they brought the fifth, and shamefully handled him. But he looked toward the king and said, Because you have authority among men, though you are yourself corruptible, you do what you will. Yet do not think that our race has been forsaken of Elohim, but hold on your way, and behold his sovereign majesty, how it will torture you and your seed. And after him they brought the sixth, and when he was at the point to die, he said, Do not be vainly deceived, for we suffer these things for our own doings, as sinning against our own Elohim. Marvelous things have come to pass, but do not think that you will be unpunished, having determined to fight against Elohim. But above all was the mother marvelous and worthy of honorable memory, for when she looked on 7 sons perishing within a space of one day, she bare the sight with good courage for the hopes that she had set on Yah. And she exhorted each one of them in the language of their fathers, filled with noble temper, and stirring up her womanish thought with manly passion, saying to them, I do not know how you came into my womb, neither was it I that bestowed on you your spirit and your life. And it was not I that brought into order the first elements of each one of you. Therefore, the Creator of the world, who fashioned the generation of man and devised the generation of all things in mercy, gives back to you again both your spirit and your life, as you now treat yourselves with contempt for his law's sake. But Antiochus, thinking himself to be despised, and suspecting the reproachful voice, while the youngest was yet alive, did not only make his appeal to him by words, but also at the same time promised with oaths that he would enrich him and raise him to high estate, if he would turn from the customs of his fathers, and that he would take him for his friend, and entrust him with affairs. But when the young man would in no way give heed, the king called to him his mother, and exhorted her that she would counsel the youth to save himself. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she undertook and persuaded her son. But bending toward him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, she spoke this in the language of her fathers: My son, have pity on me that carried you 9 months in the womb, gave you suck 3 years, and nurtured you, and brought you up to this age, and sustained you. I implore you, my child, to lift your eyes up to heaven and earth, and see all things that are in it, and so to recognize that Elohim made them not of things that were, and that the race of men in this way comes into being. Do not be afraid of this butcher, but proving yourself worthy of your brothers, accept your death, that is in mercy of Elohim, I may receive you again with your brothers. But before she had yet ended speaking, the young man said, Whom do you wait for? I do not obey the command of the king, but listen to the command of the law that was given to our fathers through Moses. But you have devised all manner of evil against the Hebrews, will in no escape hands of the Elohim. For we are suffering because of our own sins, and if for rebuke and disciplining of our living Elohim has been angered a little while, yet he will again be reconciled with his own servants. But you, unholy man, and of most vile, do not be vainly lifted up in your own wild pride with uncertain hopes, raising your hand against the heavenly children, for not yet have you escaped the judgment of Almighty Elohim that sees all things. For these are our brothers, having endured a short pain that brings continuous life, and have now died under Elohim's covenant. But you, through the judgment of Elohim, will receive in just measure the penalties of your arrogance. But I, as my brothers, give up both body and soul for the laws of our fathers, calling on the Elohim that he may speedily be gracious to the nation, that you, amidst trials and plagues, may confess he alone is Elohim, and that in me and my brothers you may stay the wrath of Almighty, which has been justly brought on our whole race. But the king, falling into a rage, handled him worse than all the rest, being exasperated at his mocking. So he also died pure from pollution, putting his whole trust in Yah. And last of all after her sons the mother died. Let then suffice to have said so much concerning the sacrificial feast and the king's exceeding barbarities.